What's up? What's up, everybody? Good evening. Good evening. It is March 24th, right? I lose track of my days. Is it March 24th? It's March 24th. And we are here for another well encounter as we top off our finale for Women's Month. Thank you once again, everybody, for joining us. It has been a pleasure to have the queens directing everything this month and showing face. Is so much that we have been discussing and learning so far. So very grateful for this month as we opened up a Woman's Heart Speaks. And we are going to close it out with another wonderful episode. Tonight's topic, we are going to be discussing interpreting the language of a woman. We're breaking down communication, how women communicate, the differences between how women communicate across cultures, with men, in society. So we're going to unpack a lot tonight, or at least we're going to try to. Do me a favor, everybody, like, comment, share this post with your network, with everybody. Put it on your Instagram. Send the links to all your people in your phone. Go through everybody and share this so that we can have everybody join in on this conversation. Let's see. Oh, as always, here at The Well, we want you guys to leave informed and have encouragement. We always want you guys to embrace and encounter the well, become the well, act and be the well. And in those moments, we feel that puts you in line to be more like Jesus, to enjoy life, to be more like love, whatever you want to put in place of that. Excuse me, y'all. I'm a little stuffy today. All right. Forgive me. And we're back. So we have a wonderful panel tonight, guys. Let's see. We're going to bring everybody in to introduce. I'm going to start with, up here. Ms. Angela, please introduce yourself and show our guests, tell us a little about yourself.
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Angela. I think this is my third time being a part of Something with the Well, so thank you for inviting me back. Happy to close out International Women's Month, Women's History Month with you all. I can't believe it's still March also. Anyways, I've been in DC for 8 years now, going on 9 soon, and I spent almost 8 years with the Table Church here in DC, which is how I got connected with the Well. And so that's kind of the source of all of these relationships. So I'm very grateful for that. I spend my days now working for Amazon, but right here in this office. So I spend a lot of time at this desk. And yeah, I'm excited to continue and actually close out this conversation with you all tonight.
Awesome. Okay. Alrighty, now we're going.
Now serving pastor, you don't know what I'm going to say, so you know what?
Because you're not a pastor.
Disclaimer, y'all. That means she's gonna be keeping it real tonight. So we welcome it. We love it. Hey, unleash. Let it be free. What could not be spoken before. All right, we're going to move down to what's this? My right? No, my left. Gosh, it's confusing. Mama Dent, tell us about yourself.
You muted, Mama. She was so excited too. No, we can't hear you.
Well, now I've got to go home. As usual, you all, I have an echo. The echo is on the other side, and she'll be introduced in a minute. But anyway, I am so glad to be back with you all this evening. I've been here a number of times as well. And when I've not been on camera with you all, I've been in the chat, truly enjoying the well. I am a minister, an associate minister at the First Baptist Church of Highland Park. I am a graduate of the Samuel D. Wood Proctor School of Theology. I like saying that because I really had a great time there. But I love the opportunity to be with the well, the non-traditional church, if you will. It's very exciting, and I'm looking forward to being here with you all this evening.
Yeah. We looking forward to having you and having this conversation with you, Mama. We love it. All right, moving on to I guess we can say your shadow.
All right,
Go ahead, Miss
fine.
Jordan.
Good evening, everybody. You all, I think by now you know me. My name is Jordan. I've been on the well a few times, and if, like my mom said, her echo, her shadow. If I'm not on camera, I'm in the comments, showing mad love to the family, to the squad, as 3J would say. And so, as always, it's a pleasure to be here, especially to, excuse me, close out this month discussing about women because we are powerful. And so appreciate you all um, presenting me with this opportunity. I am the chair of the young adult ministry at the church, the plug. So I'm plugging the plug. Check us out. But I also assist with the teens as well. So I'm glad to be here. Looking forward to the conversation. I'm looking forward to what formerly Pastor Angela will say.
Okay.
You better deliver now, Angela.
All right.
That's on me,
Our
right?
squad. Yes. Come on, squad member.
I'm AnaYelsi. If you don't know me, you might know my husband, Matt Collinson, who's also on the squad. The Wells token white guy. Can I say that? I say it with utmost affection, but he is. So it's just us and our two little pet rats, Bruno and Felix, and our little Mount Pleasant apartment living life. And yeah, I have been loving this. I'm really excited for this conversation. My little side note, I've been so tired. We all talked about how tired we were before we started. And I told Matt, I was like, I know I'm tired. And there's a part of me that's like, I'm not feeling this. But every time we start, I love our conversations so much. So I'm just really grateful for what a gift this has been to me, even when I didn't think I wanted to go to sleep. That's all.
Absolutely. There is definitely an energy that comes from being here at these encounters. And even when I'm in the of course, everybody should know me by now. If y'all don't know me, I am Miss Nikki. Normally, y'all will see me in the comments leading the charge as the one of the directors, I guess, of communications for the well. But I have been hosting Women's Month all month, and we are going to close out tonight with a bang as we discuss interpreting the language of a woman. So let's open it up with our first question of the night, ladies. People often say that women have their own ways of communicating, right? Do you believe that we have our own specific understanding, or is it just we respond differently to things? Miss Angela, let's start with you.
I think we do have our own way of communicating only because we're always paying attention. So I think I always think about it from the perspective of my younger days of going out and being in maybe a bar and going to the women's bathroom. There's nothing like going to a women's bathroom in a night establishment.
Mm-hmm.
If you need something and somebody has it, it's yours. They're going to help you, even if they don't know you. And so I think there's this constant always looking out for one another in a way that doesn't always happen. Obviously, I can't speak for men, but I think women just notice things more. And so we communicate in that way because we're paying attention.
I agree with that. We are we're detail oriented. Sometimes it can be a gift and a curse, to say the
Yeah,
least.
and it makes me so knowing all the things that we kind of expect, and we're always planning ahead for whatever is about to happen or trying to figure out how to mitigate situations or help situations. I think maybe some therapists would consider that all women have some type of trauma response to their environment, knowing that we kind of have to be the ones to make sure that things happen or they're not going to happen. And it's just ingrained in us. You know, the little girl becomes the helper in the house for all of her little siblings. Does the little boy do that? I don't know. So it's just it's good and bad, right? Like I love the fact that I know what needs are and what need to be met, and I can love people that way. Like it is a blessing and a curse, right? Because I also feel compelled to do it just because of the fact that I'm a woman, and that's what we do. We take care of people.
Yeah, that's the natural power that was given to us, the nurturer. Mama Dent, what about
Yeah.
you?
Well, yeah, I
Are
agree.
only women responding?
I agree. 100%. I think one of the things about our communication as women is that it's multi-layered,
Mhm.
multi-dimensional. You know, um, I didn't just hear what Angela said. I was able to relate to her experience, and I could validate where she was coming from. And I could remember those days when I was in that late office, that late night club and the restroom,
Mhm.
and I needed something. And there was another woman there, whether she knew me or not, who was glad to share whatever she had. It's kind of the nature of the way we are, having, I guess they say we have a sixth sense. There is something that goes on with us, that helps us be more sensitive. And I don't
Mhm.
mean emotional sensitive, but maybe intellectually and spiritually more sensitive to what's going on around us. And so as a direct result, our communication is very, very different. Um, but we don't need translators when we talk to each other, whereas maybe
Mhm.
with men we need translators.
That is actually very true. The It's interesting how even with that dynamic, right? Like you said, we don't need translators. However, when it comes to communicating with men, there seems to be such a disconnect and a divide that
A
we
learning
just cannot understand each other. You know, even for them, it's like, okay, keep things simple. Just tell the story straightforward. I am telling the story straightforward. No, you're not. You're adding all this other stuff, blah, blah, blah. It's like, but I'm telling you exactly what's going on.
That's the
it's
important
so
stuff.
right. It's like the details lead into why the result ended up the way that it did.
Mhm.
So that actually brings me into my second question. So let's dive into that. The Why do you think that there's a such a disconnect between how women and men communicate? JD, tap in.
Because men is goofy. I
Straight
mean,
like
that's
that.
plain and simple. Men are goofy. Like they, but serious, in all seriousness. I mean, we are different, we are different beings. We are different creatures. And so I will say they do have their own way of communicating. They have their own code, just like women have their own code. And so like you said, it's exactly what it is. It's just a disconnect. And so we have to find ways to communicate with them, and vice versa. I don't know,
Mhm.
maybe they missed the light bulb, but the light bulb ain't going off, or they missed a step or two. I don't know what the disconnect is, but it's just the way it is. But I think that when it comes to communicating, that's the reason why it's best to understand how everyone communicates, because even though as women, we may have a baseline understanding of certain things. So like the bathroom exchange and encounter, um, there are still some women that communicate a different way, and we still be like, sister girl, what can you run that back? Can you repeat that? Or we may not understand what they're communicating. And so I think it's important for us to understand how everybody communicates, because we all communicate differently, no matter, sex, age, etc.
Mm-hmm.
But
Agreed.
I want to
Agreed.
jump in right there because I remember saying to my son-in-law's brother, I used to call him 3 words
I thought it was 2 words.
because no matter what you said to him, he responded to you, and it was only 3 words. Not
Wow.
necessarily the same 3 words, but I used to say, when I would see him,
Oh,
and I
man
would
of
say,
few words.
"Hey, what's up, 3 words?" And he was mad, but he understood what I was saying. He does he didn't mince words. He didn't say a lot. And that's what I see happening with men sometimes. They'll walk up to each other and say, "Hey, bro," and another one will grunt, and they're on the same page.
Mhm.
Had a whole conversation.
A
Yeah,
whole
and
conversation.
understood. They understood. It was literally 3 words, and it was. I mean, it was a full conversation in their world, but we over here like, you ain't say
What?
nothing.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mhm.
yeah.
I do think it's interesting because there's some phrases that everyone's using that are we're saying something without saying it, which is, I think we're all on the same page that men and women tend to communicate differently as a generalization. The the question is it natural, or is it nature, or is it nurture? Because we've mentioned,
Mhm.
there's trauma responses. We've mentioned, oh, we're made that way. Like, I'm inclined to think it's like, yeah, there's some things that are unique to us, I think more so as individuals, like we were just created, and this is who you are as an individual. In my thinking, it's more that women are socialized, and Angela kind of touched on this with the whole idea of like being taught to be a caregiver even when it's as a child. Baby doll is like
Yep.
put in your arms immediately. But like,
Yep.
Mhm.
we're taught to care for people. We're taught not to put anybody out, not to make anybody uncomfortable, not to make anybody feel like their needs aren't being met, even if it's at the expense of our
Mhm.
own. We're taught to be
Yep.
hyper vigilant because of all of the threats that are out there, many of which are at the hands of men. So of course we communicate
Mhm.
differently with women than we do with them. And
Mhm.
so to me, I tend to think it's been so many generation after generation being taught, this is how you have to act, and this is what you're in danger of, and so we respond accordingly. And I think after
Mhm.
so many generations, people start to go, well, that's just how women are. We've had to be. Yeah, that's how women are,
Mhm.
because we are taught from the moment
Mhm.
we suck air into our lungs, this is who you are, this is what you can and cannot do, and who you can and cannot be. And so we
Mhm.
again, accordingly. So I think it's just been like that for so long that we stopped questioning whether that's just who we are, or whether that is a
Mhm.
response to the world around us. I think it's a response to the world
Mhm.
around us. I consider myself, and Matt, I am a pointed speaker. I'm opinionated. If there's a confrontation brewing, I'm going to be right there being like, let's do this. Like, let's say what you have to say. Let's have a conversation. Matt is a peacemaker. He's a more docile person. I would say he's equally emotional to me, because I am an emotional person, if not more. Like, he'll cry just as likely as I will cry. Like, and our communication styles is much like it is with my close girlfriends in terms of being able to treat what we're feeling. And I think all of that is because him being a man doesn't make those things impossible, and me being a woman doesn't make those things a given.
Mhm.
And so
Yeah.
we are who we are as individuals, as well as like what our gender tells us to be. So
Mhm.
yeah, I don't think it's that we cannot break out of the mold. I think we're taught not to.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I'm gonna set it up this way. I'm gonna set it up this way. Ma, what does the Bible say?
The Bible says.
I couldn't help
That's
myself,
an
y'all. I
inside
couldn't.
joke. That's an inside joke. Sorry
I
about
couldn't help
that.
myself, y'all.
But
Tell us
but
everything.
I agree with you, AnaYelsi. I think, you know, I was just thinking about to myself about my Myers Briggs and Jordan's Myers-Briggs, because we both took it, and we were talking about the differences. I am an extreme extrovert, and yet Jordan, I think, is more introverted, but yet we can finish each other's sentences. And she and I and her sister always have these conversations about what's wrong with everybody else in the world. We understand each other. And so I think to your point, some of it is nurture, but I think some of it is also in our DNA, who we are as people. But I think the nurturing piece of it has a tremendous influence on us.
Yeah. Yeah.
AnaYelsi, I think you touched on something very interesting. I want to kind of circle back to when you were talking about the differences between you and Matt. And you were saying how, he's just as emotional as you are. He'll cry, and you cry. That's something that I want to point out, because I think part of the disconnect has come when we have separated that men are not emotional, and they are. They're just as emotional as we are. We're just taught that it's okay to express our emotions, whereas men are taught that it's a sign of weakness to express emotions. So they hold it all in, unless it's anger. It's exactly. No, but you're right though. Unless it's anger, because of course toxic masculinity would have you believe that if you're big, tough, and angry, then you're a real man. You cry if you show empathy, if you show, feeling, then you're weak. You're a simp. You're, soft, and all these things. You're feminine, and I think that drives part of the disconnect on why we have so many issues communicating with them, because in those instances where we are being emotional and we want them to empathize with us and understand, they don't know how, because they don't know how to express emotion or understand the emotion that we're feeling. And I think that it's important that we start to break, like you said, break that mold and allow men to express themselves in their truth. So many men are going through the depression and suicide and everything like that because they can't get out what they need to get out. And I think that's something that we need to really be mindful of. With that being said, right. With that being said, George said men are soft as tissue. Funny. When we talk about different cultures, right, and how women communicate across the world, there are similarities and differences between how all of us communicate. But one of the main ways that all of us communicate is through body language, right? How important do you guys think it is to learning and understanding body language, especially when it comes to women communication? Anybody can jump in on that one.
I would say it's good. It's real good. No, go no, go ahead. I would just say it's real good, and I'm gonna let you go, and then I'm gonna finish that.
Now I feel bad because my thing is so not profound. I'm thinking of a TikTok trend that was really popular a few months ago, and it was women staring at the camera and the thing is like, only women understand the difference between these two looks. And it's like a woman will stand in front of is talking to a guy, and one of the looks she'll give is just like, and then the other look is, and they were like, what's the difference? And see, y'all laughing. Let's see you laugh. We know that if your girlfriend across the club looks at you and is like, that she's just like, look at this fool. But if she looks at you like, it's come help me get away from this fool. Two very different looks. But they're like, silly thing. But their point was, we've created coping mechanisms, all of these unspoken things where not a word had to be said, but I know that the woman across the room is in danger or in need and needs me to intervene without a word being spoken. And we all know that look as women, because you got to be on the lookout for it. We know. So
Yep.
I think it's very important, and it's very distinct. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I was going to say. You know, it when it comes to our safety, because that's one of the things that I always think about, paying attention to my surroundings, looking at other women that I'm going out, or that while I'm out, if she looks uncomfortable, hey, do you need help? You know, or hey, I was waiting for you. You know, what's going on? Let's go to the bar. You know, something so that, you know, that safety, they feel secure. So I would definitely say body language is important. And the other thing is not just for us, but in general. Like, this kind of relates to it, but really doesn't. But I guess it kind of relates to us as women. There was this video I saw on social media, and I don't know where I saw it, but it was this, and it was in another country. So we're talking about another country, and there was a woman standing outside selling ice cream, I guess, but it was a child on the other side that she was engaging with, and you know, getting ready to sell the ice cream to, or give the ice cream to. But there was a gentleman not too far away that she noticed was paying attention to this young girl, this little girl. And she also noticed that it was a vehicle not too far either. And so that guy was waiting for that little girl to walk off so that he could snatch her up and throw her in the car. And I think the car door was even open. And right when that little girl walked off, that woman watched that man, and she ran around that counter and walked that little girl down the street. And that guy got in the car, pulled off, and ended up making a U-turn and going down in the direction of where that young girl was walking. But that to me speaks to us being mindful of that safety that we need to have, and that we all have, because we know how much we're targeted. We know how much, you know, people are out to get us. And so I think body language is extremely important. I think, and anybody that goes to the bathroom, or any woman that goes to the bathroom by herself, or any of her friends allow her to go to the bathroom by herself, y'all need to be friends no more. Lead a club together. But when you get home or get to your destination safely, look, I don't think we can be friends no more. It's going to be odd to them, but they'll have to get over it, because we have to look out for one another. So body language is definitely important.
Yes.
I mean, I think body language drives all language around the world, especially when you don't have words. Anyone who's ever been outside of like their home or in another country knows that body language is the number one thing that's going to get you through. And understanding the body language of that culture where you're at is also important, because what's normal for you for body language might be very bad where you are, if you were to do that thing.
I agree. I agree with that. I mean, oh, go ahead, Mama Dent. Go ahead.
No. Go ahead, Miss Nikki. I ain't forgetting. Go ahead.
I think that is true in the case of, you know, we might not always know what's acceptable body language and what's not acceptable body language in different cultures. The differences between Western and Eastern culture, for sure. But I think that it is important to understanding that, because there are times where body language can be misleading or misinterpreted, right? So I think we have to be mindful of understanding the universal body signals, especially with women. I mean, I think all women pretty much understand each other's body language, no matter what culture you come from. But there are some instances where there is confusion with that. Before I dive deeper into that, Mama Dent, go ahead with your point.
Well, what I was going to say was the only thing that I also noticed, Jordan was talking about being observant of your surroundings. One of the things that I have noticed, though, is that my friends who are married have a different radar than I do. And I think because they are used to being with their husbands, and having that sense of security from being with their husbands, I am much more observant of my surroundings as a single woman. I also think, though, my former husband helped make me alert to it because he would say to me, you know, pay attention to where you're going, make sure you're aware of your surroundings. Don't go and come the same way because you may be being observed. And he would share those things with me. And they were things that didn't come to me naturally. And so when I think about how men and women communicate, that's one of the things that just kind of resonated with me when Jordan was talking about sensitivity to your surroundings and body language and things like that. And then culturally, yes, body language is a big deal because if you don't know the language, the body language in the culture, you could do something offensive or you could be in danger because something that you're doing is misinterpreted. So body language definitely, I think, probably is a bigger influence in communication than maybe some verbal.
Yep.
Yeah, like prime example, right? I know in France, and even in some African countries, it is very common for people to greet each other with a kiss. Even if, you know what I'm saying, we don't know each other, right? And they'll just walk up to you, hey, how you doing? Mwah. You know what I'm saying? But in America, you do that to somebody you don't know, it's like, whoa, bad, give me 50 feet. Like, who's you? Like, so I think culture definitely spans an interesting aspect to it. Going back to misinterpreting or just understanding body language in general, I wanted to bring up a perfect example of body language, and I think all women can relate to, but especially Black women in particular. Ketanji Brown Jackson. If none of y'all have been paying attention, we are witnessing history being made as the first African American woman is going through hearings to be confirmed to the Supreme Court. This is a monumental step in America because there has never been an African American woman on the Supreme Court in all America's history. So this is definitely breaking a glass ceiling in many ways. For anybody who has been watching these hearings, you all can see the amount of vitriol being spewed at her on so many different levels. And through it all, she is keeping herself composed and poised in such a way that is actually surprising people. The fact that she has not reacted or shown that she is shaken by the amount of ignorance that has been coming her way. There was one moment in particular that I want to point out, and this goes into understanding body language that I think all of us can relate to. When Senator Ted Cruz questioned her about racist baby. Yes, y'all heard me correctly. He questioned her about racist babies and asked her if she believed that babies should be taught to be racist because of a book that was being read at a school that she is on the board of, as if she has control over the books and what's being taught at the school. But he asked her that question, and this was literally her reaction. Senator,
the sigh.
And then she proceeded with her answer. So I think all of us can look at that and know she was like, okay, let me take a deep breath before I respond, because I'm about to just...
I'm going to cuss you out.
Yep.
It was the long, drawn out pause and the deep sigh before she gave her answer that all of us was just like, yep, we know what that means.
Yeah.
We know what that means. And
Yeah.
so it's like understanding body language is important. And I think it's especially important for men to learn how to understand women's body language and understand when we're being frustrated or when we're uncomfortable or when we're thinking or when we're worried. Like there are different signals that we give off, physically that we may not be speaking, so to speak.
Yeah.
Right. You'll say, "How are you doing?" "I'm fine."
Like, go away.
But you're not. Right. Mm-hmm. But it seems that men tend to be so straightforward. They just go off your words. And that's why we always seem to have this issue with, okay, he's not understanding. It's like, yeah, I said I'm fine, but he's not really caring or asking if something's wrong. He's just taking it like, okay, right. He's like, okay, you're fine. Going on about my business. And it's like, but I'm really not fine. And so I have a male best friend. He and I have these conversations all the time where it's just like, why can't y'all just be straightforward? Like, if you're not fine, just say you're not fine. Like, why are you throwing hints and signals expecting me to figure it out? And it's like, yeah, why do we do that?
Come on. Flag on the play. If they are asking the question, "Are you okay?" Something in them says something's not right.
They already knew.
So you already know. You already know that I'm not okay. And you're looking for me to tell you that I'm not okay. Now, granted, I can understand we as women may not necessarily always be open and honest and say, "I'm okay." Or I'm not okay. We'll go with "I'm okay." And for that reason, it's because we've been taught to be strong and not to show our own emotions and to just keep going and pressing forward and not deal with it. Or not just that, we probably don't feel vulnerable enough to be able to have that conversation with you because you might not be receptive to what we're saying because you're not even on that level either. Or we may be bold and honest and tell you, "You know what, you getting on my nerves." Or "You hurt my feelings." Or "It bothered me when you did this." You know what I mean? It could be a number of those things. But I can't fully buy the whole idea that they don't necessarily know or not reading our body language. And the other reason why I say that is because they are what's the word I'm looking for? What's the word I'm looking for? Oh my goodness. They are visual creatures. They see.
Yes.
They see. And so when you see, you see.
Yep.
So when you bring up that question of, "Are you okay? Is something wrong?" To me, that's already you saying, you're aware that something is off with me because of my body language, something in my behavior has changed, my attitude has changed or something. And again, and I'm not excusing us as women because we need to be honest with ourselves. Sometimes we don't tell the whole story. We go with "I'm fine" and we're not okay. So that's not fair to them either.
But why do we do that?
Well, the same reasons that I said. Well, because it could be a number of reasons. I'm gonna just throw out there: not feeling vulnerable enough to do it. We've been taught to, just keep pressing forward, be strong, push through. You know what I mean? Don't deal with it, as opposed to just be. One of the things that I've been learning in therapy is allowing myself to feel whatever it is that I'm feeling. Don't sugarcoat it. Don't hide it. Don't do. Just feel whatever it is that you are feeling. Process it. And then start to deal with it and unpack it and understand why I feel the way I feel. But it's taking me years of undoing or unlearning a behavior of just stacking stuff on and not dealing with whatever I'm feeling. So I'm not excusing that at all, but I'm just saying sometimes it may not be. It's a number of things, Angela, that formerly known as Pastor Angela, that we don't, that we don't do, that we don't, why we don't answer that question honestly.
Yeah, I feel like I do that. And also, it's funny because the I'm fine is really only reserved for romantic relationship issues, um, at least from my perspective. So, like, I don't handle my issues with other people or work or friends the same way that I do with my boyfriend at all. And so sometimes I think the frustration is from my end, it's I'm just expecting him to know, and the fact that he's asking me, I'm like, you don't even deserve an answer. Like, what do you mean? How do you not already know? And I know that that's probably, you're laughing, I know. You have some, yes, teach me things, please. Like, I, it's limiting on my part, I know, and it just creates a larger gap in communication. Um, and you know, it all starts with body language because that's where the "Are you okay?" is from. Because there's not a person on earth who can be in the same room with somebody who they are arguing with or in a fight with, and you just go to do the most mundane thing like the dishes, and you can just sense it in the room. Like nothing is normal. No words have to be spoken. And so it's just hard, I think, to break out of that when you're expecting somebody to understand your feelings and you don't understand why they don't. It feels like you have to work on what you're feeling and also teach someone something, and it's draining.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, in listening to this, one of the things that I thought to myself is that as a Black woman in America, me showing emotion, except for laughter, is
Come on.
twisted like a knife in my
Mhm.
existence.
It
I'm
becomes your
either,
existence.
it becomes my existence. I'm the angry
The
Black woman if
angry
I
Black
get angry.
Mm-hmm.
If I cry, I'm being over dramatic and oversensitive. And in whatever way I can be invalidated.
Yep.
And so when I watch Ketanji Brown Jackson respond to the vitriol that's being spewed at her, I am sure when she goes home at night, she drowns her pillow in tears
Mm-hmm.
because it was okay for Brett Kavanaugh to cry and scream and question the Senate
And act a plum fool, like a big child.
and then say, and I like my beer, as if that's okay. But she
I
could
like beer.
not
Don't you like
say,
beer?
she couldn't say to Ted Cruz, we went to law school together. You know me.
Mm-hmm.
It's not that you are asking me questions because you don't know me. You
Mm-hmm.
know me.
Mm-hmm.
And your last name is Cruz.
Don't remind
It's
him.
not Graham.
What's your family
It's not
history?
O'Connell.
Mm-hmm.
You're
Okay.
not American.
So, okay. So we have some commonality here. You know me. So what you're doing is even more despicable.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's more despicable for
Mm-hmm.
the senator who asked her, "Can you define a woman?" My response was, "Can you?"
Hello.
Right.
Look, did you
Hello.
graduate
Can
from
you
high school?
define what a woman is, sir?
What law
Are you
school did you
yourself
go
a
to?
woman?
When did you serve as a judge? When did you serve as a criminal defense attorney? Please help so that I understand what qualifies you.
Yeah.
Now, see, she couldn't go in like that. Other
Right.
Nope.
people are are allowed to go in like that.
We're
And
not.
well, there was a time when we weren't. But as Auntie Maxine says, I'm reclaiming my time.
Reclaiming my time.
Hello.
You don't get that free pass no more.
But the
Now,
reality is,
he has handled it, but my heart breaks for her as a black woman in
Absolutely.
America. My heart breaks for
yes.
her. I believe in any other country in the world, she could have fallen apart, fell out on the floor, and just cut a fool, and they would have said, "Oh, poor darling, let us go ahead and confirm you." But
Mm.
in this country right here, all they said was, "Let me go back and sharpen my knife."
Mm.
Hmm.
Mm.
But
Mm.
that's
AnaYelsi,
kind
you
of,
about to say something?
yeah, it takes me back to our earlier conversation when we were saying like this whole idea of, is it nature or is it nurture, and getting out of the box or breaking the mold? Because, while the experience as a brown Latina is not the same as the experience of a black woman, there are certainly parallels, and so the angry black woman trope might be thrown at you. And Nikki and I mentioned this on a call on Sunday, and for folks like me, it's, she's spicy and crazy, and those crazy Latinas, they'll cut you sooner than look at you.
Yep.
There's so many tropes about us.
Hmm.
And so you do, like, when you were saying that it becomes your reality or it can become your truth, like, I, for years, for my entire life, have been internalizing that AnaYelsi is an intimidating, scary, angry person. I have been told that overwhelmingly by men, but also by white people in particular. And so it became my truth. I just went around going, I just guess I am an angry, crazy, like, Latina, and I gotta work on that. I'm so full of rage. And then I married this little marshmallow of a man who I used to say, he is the marshmallow. And I used to say when I was single, oh, I'm never gonna get married unless I can find a really strong man, one that I can't run over, because I'm an angry, scary, intimidating woman. So I need a strong man. Then I married my marshmallow, and he's all like, softness is okay. You can be soft. You can cry. I'm going to take care of you. I'm going to nurture you. I'm going to bring you a meal in bed. I'm going to give you a back rub. And I'm just sitting here like, but I'm angry. And he literally, sometimes he knows it infuriates me, will pet me on the head and go, that's so cute. And I'm like, how dare you? So I'm sitting there having an existential crisis going, but I'm angry, but that's so healing. But how dare you tell me I'm not who I am, who I've been my whole life. And I'm having like a breakdown because of this kind, soft man. And soft is not a negative. I'm saying that with so much love and affection. It has been a healing gift for me to be married to a soft man who has shown that I don't need to have a partner who's even stronger than I am, because I'm not actually that scary. I've just had people tell me that my whole life, and it became my truth. And I'm still trying to unlearn that. I can say that right now, and then tomorrow I'm gonna be like, I am scary. But like, it's a back and forth. It's like, healing is not a linear process, but it's that. It's being given chances to feel safe enough to challenge the things we've been told are true about ourselves. And we don't get a lot of those as women of color, as brown women, and as black women, or as women at all. And so I'm sure white women try to do that as well. And it's just, we never get those opportunities. And everything the world is telling us is who we are, we start to think is true until someone challenges it for us.
Isn't that so interesting though? Like, you're an Enneagram 8, right?
And Matt's a 2. The helper and the challenger, which are normally the
I'm a 6. I'm a 6 and a 9. A 6, 9, and a 1. Primarily 6. Yeah, I'm 6. I'm a 6, but I have traits of 9 and 1. But I'm primarily a 6.
That means you're healthier though when you start to show up. Anyhow, sorry. Go ahead, Angela. You were saying.
Jordan, I don't know what they're talking about, but the body.
It's kind of like Myers. It's kind of like the Myers-Briggs. It's another.
The Enneagram personality test.
I've never taken the Enneagram personality test, but I am familiar with it. But I just thought it gave me an opportunity to throw my line in.
Talk about the Bible. It's important too. I was just going to say, I think it's so refreshing. I would say that a lot of people, I don't know all of you well, but would take women like us and think that we are intimidating, and that, we are, big and bold and aren't afraid of things. And it's so refreshing, I think, to see a relationship with someone like Matt, who's not afraid of you because he's bigger and badder and stronger in that way, but like, isn't afraid of you, and he's softer, like, naturally. And so I think responding to that is so nice, and it's such a juxtaposition to what we're used to, and it shows another way of doing it. Like, no, I'm not afraid of you, but also you're not scary.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Balance is what it is. One of the comments I noticed, guys, when we were talking about body language, Debbie Camper, she said, sorry, not sorry. Men shouldn't be teaching women anything about their bodies, including body language. We need to learn to be more intuitive of each other in our different communication styles.
Facts.
Yes.
That is very true.
Yeah.
Passed away said he definitely thinks men have to admit that we pick up on it, meaning they pick up on when something's wrong with us. They pick up the body language. He said, I also agree that some women have to be more open about it.
Sure.
Yeah. We could be a little bit more open with how we feel. But, to Jordan's point on that, yeah, to Jordan's point on that though, it's hard because we deal with so much on the day to day that, if we've ever tried to express our feelings to you before and you seem kind of like nonchalant or like not caring about it, or you gave us those one word, responses when we just gave you a whole paragraph story, and it's just like, oh, true.
I'm not gonna waste my time. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, well, we don't want to talk or tell you how we really feel because we don't think it's going to be received. We don't feel comfortable when we've tried before and your response was just so like one-sided or so short, and it seemed like you didn't care. But that goes into understanding, how men and women communicate as well. With that being said, with everything that we've been talking about as far as how women are, told to do things a certain way, and how we struggle so much with, embracing ourselves and allowing ourselves the space to have our feelings and live in our truth, organically, because to AnaYelsi's point, people your whole life could be telling you that you're something when you're really not. And you adopt that as your truth.
Yep.
But that's not your organic truth. That's a pseudo truth. That is something that they spoke over you, which, mind you guys, scripture says the power of life and death is in the tongue. So if you are constantly telling somebody you're this, you're that, you're like this, you're like that, from the time they're growing up all the way up, that person assumes that identity that you predisposed on them, and they're not allowed to be themselves.
Yep. I'm a product of that
conversation. Oh, I am too. In a lot of ways. And we're just now.
Don't toot your head, lady. You tell the story all the time. You tell the story all the time. I don't know if I got a few minutes to tell the story. I'll make it as quick as possible. But I was in high school, and I think it was high school, 10th grade, and it was back to school night, parent teacher conference, whatever it was, and I had a whole panic attack. Like, I mean, can't breathe, nothing outside the school annex, because I feel like my teacher is going to talk bad about me and say all these bad things, and my mama going to take me home and whoop me. And instead, what my mother did was, when she got in the classroom, my teacher did tell her, well, Jordan is this, Jordan is that, or whatever, but she could do this. And so my mom flipped it and said, well, what are you doing to help her be the leader that she is going? She sounds like she has these leadership skills or something like that. So how are you helping her develop those? Like, she flipped it on that lady, and I looked at her like, me? And so, I didn't get, needless to say, I didn't get in trouble, but she did talk to me and help me to understand, like, look, you gotta do this, you gotta go about it this way. And she started talking over me and, things of that nature. And I can say that now I am a leader to some degree, not even to some degree. I am a leader in my position at work. In addition to, some other things that she spoke over me, growing up as a child. I'm not talking about the negative things, because I can't even say that my mom spoke negative things over me. And if she did, I don't remember. So there's that. But, the positive things that she spoke over me, I can definitely say I'm walking into those things now as an adult. And so it's facts, Nikki, what you say. What the scriptures say is facts. So
Yep. There are
It's
some
amazing.
absolute truths.
Sorry.
Go ahead, AnaYelsi.
I was just gonna say, first, that's really beautiful, like your relationship. But I was, oh, that's so sweet. I was gonna say, it's telling, like, the influence that, forget men, that we as women can have upon one another. Because
Yes.
I'm the opposite. I had a mother who told me I was worthless and a burden, and all the awful things you should never utter to a child. And so the first person who gave me the bad messaging that has formed my sense of identity for 37 years was my mother. And so I, like, just to show that the difference, like, I can imagine how that would have gone down had that been my mother and me rather than the two of you. And so we can have a profound effect upon how we are shaped as women. We forget men in the room when it's just us. That was a powerful story.
But I will say to you, Miss Nikki, you said power of life and death is in the tongue. And I can say to you that my faith was what helped me learn how to parent Jordan. And as you said, I had someone tell me, because when Jordan was in high school and going through those teenage things, I was like, I'm about to pull my hair out. One of us is going to die. And this person said to me, you reap what you sow. Don't speak to her where she is, but speak to her in her potential. Speak to her where you see her going. That's what God does with us. God doesn't speak to us where we are. God speaks to us in our potential and where he sees us going. And man, I mean, that thing turned me around completely. And so that really helped a lot for me. And that's why when we talk about women and how we communicate with one another, I think as a woman of faith, that has helped me communicate even better. I can say I grew up in an environment where I was the youngest. I was the girl. There were 8 grandchildren, one girl at the top, one girl at the bottom, and 6 guys in between. So I was then, and I will always be a Black American princess. And that was the way I was nurtured. So, but being a woman of faith has really, really profoundly changed who I am and helped me to appreciate my sisters.
Yeah.
I think that's really important what you're saying, Mama Dent, because even with me, I grew up in a church. I came from, what I'm saying, a believing mother, who took herself to church when she was younger, and then she was determined to raise her, family in a Christian home, et cetera, et cetera. However, even with that, we still had an extreme disconnect. Hold on. Sorry, guys. It was kind of difficult because, like, we didn't know how to communicate with each other. I think her thing was she was so fearful that I was going to be like her, but she saw that as a negative. So she tried to push me so hard to not be like her. And in so doing, I always felt stifled. Like I couldn't be myself, and it was so much pressure to live up to this expectation of what she wanted me to be versus what I felt in my heart that I was or what I wanted to do. You know, our biggest thing was, you know, I have a horrible attitude. Your attitude is so terrible, it's so nasty, it's so disgusting. Oh my gosh, you're so disrespectful. And it was always because if she was talking to me and certain, like, I'm a big person when it comes to tones, like how you talk to me. It may not necessarily be what you say, but how you say it to me. And I have never been a person that responded to people talking at me. Negative reinforcement does not work on me. That's why I could never in my life go to the military. More power to you women that's in the military and that drives you. Couldn't be me. And my dad was in the military. He was a drill sergeant. You know, I didn't learn that until I was in my 20s. I did not know that my dad was a drill sergeant because he didn't bring that home with him. When he was home, he was the biggest softie. Like I was a daddy's girl. But anyways, my mom, she said I had the worst attitude imaginable because anytime she spoke to me or was trying to give me advice, whatever like that, it was like I was shut down. And so she felt like I was rolling my eyes and just and just being so disrespectful. But that wasn't what I was doing, right? And ever since I was little, that was always her biggest thing with me. Your attitude. And so as I got older, it just got worse, especially in high school. The teenage years, I'm learning about myself and trying to think for myself, and I'm being ascribed to you're horrible because you have such the worst attitude in the world. You're so disrespectful. Why are you like this towards me? And I'm just like, but I'm not. I love you. So it was very difficult in that regard. So I can say that even in, you know, a church upbringing to a woman of faith, we still have to be mindful of that, because that experience for me has taught me how to communicate differently with my daughter. I have a 7-year-old, and I am so like overly mindful of how I talk to her, because there are times where my frustration gets the best of me, and I'm just like, oh, you never listen. You're so hard-headed, blah, 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 blah. And then she shuts down. She starts crying, and she's like, you're a huge monster when you're angry. Yeah, I am. But then I have to go back and talk to her normal, and it's like, look, this is why I get frustrated with you when you do this, this, and that. I need for you to learn and understand, you know, it's not okay to do this, this, and this. Instead, you should do this, this, and this. And I talk to her, and then I'll ask her if she understands. She's like, okay, yeah, I understand. But that was something that, you know what I'm saying, I didn't get. It was, I say something, and that's what it is, because I'm the mom, and you don't have any thoughts any otherwise. What I say goes. Right?
Highway or the highway.
Exactly. So that brings me to a question of, when it comes to us being women of faith, and the church as a whole, big C, not little c, big C church, the body. How can we facilitate or better exemplify that type of communication that we should have, not only amongst each other as women, but to everybody, and even to men? Like, what role do we play as women of faith to bridge that gap with how we communicate with each other and with others?
I'm
waiting to see what used to be Pastor Angela say.
I think the most important thing, again, you have to have a church that allows women to have a voice, first of all. So that's number one. So I'm speaking from a perspective where churches do allow women to have a voice and do see their gifts, and allow them to utilize them within the space. And I know there are many situations where that's not allowed. But for the spaces where it is allowed, that's where you really start to build that communication. And I think we, especially women who preach, do ourselves a disservice when anytime that the church body has women up there preaching, they're preaching from Esther or Ruth. We're already putting, they've tuned us out. We're done.
Yep.
And so
That's women talk.
we're feeding to this, this idea that, okay, well, she's talking about the books of the Bible that are for women. Okay, I'll think about sports or something else not related to church, right? And breaking the barriers of these stories that are so complex, that include men, women, children, elderly, like all of these perspectives, and showing how our voice can lend to those stories, and showing a different perspective from what they've read before. I mean, the best way to preach is to say a story that they think they know well and turn it on its head. And so I think the communication starts from not folding yourself into the expectations that people have of a female in leadership. Dress differently. Maybe if you don't like wearing makeup, wear makeup. If you like wearing makeup, don't wear makeup. Like, throw them off. Don't always fit into the mold that they're expecting. And I think that really helps us become these, I don't know, less flat individuals to them, less like linear, this is just who women are. And like we've all said, you know, our experience shapes us. Who we are when we're born shapes us. And so showing the different perspectives that women can have within a church body is so important, because we don't all agree on the same things, and that's okay. And we need to be able to show that. And we need to be able to show that we interpret the Bible differently. Like, so many women don't get the opportunity to stand up on stage and actually share that. And, you know, I'm sure we've all heard it. You know, that's the first time I've heard a woman speak or say that, or be bold enough to step into that. And it's just like, why is this the first time? So I think the first thing is to really just not do what they're expecting you to do.
Okay. Who else?
First thing that comes to my mind, and it kind of touches on the last point that Angela made about be bold. For me, I think it would be, as women, giving ourselves permission to offend, which sounds bad, but I'll explain. Like, give ourselves permission to offend, and for men to give themselves, or not give themselves permission, but be willing to be offended. And so what I mean by that is, not just for the sake of offense, but like to say the unexpected thing, the outlandish thing, the unheard of thing, to say the thing that you're not supposed to talk about in mixed company because that's women's talk, like to do those sort of things boldly without apology. And I think that can be really hard for us, again, because of all the messaging we receive. I did a conference called Nevertheless She Preached in, I don't know, 2018, I think it was. And so I kind of brought this up, I think, last week when I said a lot of times when there's a conference where all of the headliners are women, the men just disappear. They're like, that's the women's stuff. Like, if a woman speaks, like, it can't be for me. And so the men didn't show up, even though it's not a women's conference that I was at. But anyhow, I'm at this conference, and it's, you know, mostly women in the audience, and I had them do something. You know, I gave a talk, and then I talked about what I called remaining here in my too much, or my too muchness, because that message we receive, we're all too much of something. We're too loud, we're too big, too intimidating, we're too whatever. And I handed out seashells, and I did an altar call for folks to take a seashell and write what their too muchness is, what they have been told, and then for another person to come up and take somebody else's seashell and place it at home, wherever their place of like prayer or altar might be, in order to carry that weight for the other woman. But my point behind it was learning to celebrate our too muchness and be unapologetic about our too muchness. Like, I will remain here in all of it. Like, you take it all or you take nothing, because I'm not going to parse myself out for your comfort. And if it offends you, it offends you. I think we need to be willing to do that. And men need to be willing to let it happen. Well, it's going to happen, but they need to be get out the way. So.
One point on that, you just made me remember, you touched on exactly what the communication problem is. If there's a group, if there's a conference, and it's not necessarily geared towards women, but it just so happens that all the women or all the speakers are women, men tune it out. But
On.
Yep.
and could you imagine a men's conference and even one woman speaking at a men's conference? But every single women's conference that you get one male speaking, and I'm like,
Gotta give
why are they here?
one man a platform.
Yep. But
It's
a woman would never be invited to a men's conference to speak.
at all. Very rare. Very rare.
Yeah. You know, one of the other things that I think too, Miss Nikki, is we must all, you know, there are three things that I was thinking to myself. One, before I speak, I examine myself. I need to know my own particularities and know my own orientation so that, one, I'm my authentic self. However, I also recognize that women are not monolithic.
Mm.
You know,
Yeah.
we are just as varied as the grains of sand.
Mm-hmm.
You know, sand is all sand, but it's varied. And so we have to keep that in mind as well. And then I don't just exegete the text, I exegete the people.
Mm.
Mm-hmm.
And so when I deliver a message, I am delivering a message that I believe comes with the neutrality that God delivers the word and yet can speak to and resonate in the heart of whoever hears me.
Mm.
But I agree with you, you know, when it comes to women's conferences, it's always women speakers. Maybe you throw one man in. Rarely do you see a woman on the whatever you call it for a men's conference. It's always all men.
Mm-hmm.
And even, you know, revivals and stuff like that, you know, if there's a male pastor, 99% of the time they've lined up a bunch of men. The other thing that I am seeing now that's more prominent also is Dr. So and so,
Mm.
at least in the African American church and maybe in the Baptist church. It's Dr. So and so. And I keep saying to myself, you know, at some point, you know, is this our version of the Tower of Babel
Mm.
Mm.
where we're going to out God?
Mm.
I'm Reverend Doctor Apostle Bishop so and so and so and so, and I'm not speaking to the heart of the people or the condition of the people, and that doesn't come clothed in a sex, a gender, a race, an age, or a culture.
Mm-hmm.
God is too big for that.
Mm-hmm. Yes. Yes, Mama did. That's a word.
We're done.
I mean, wait, how can anybody go
I gotta
after
say,
that? I don't even know what to say because she said it all. I mean, I echo what she says. You know, for me, what I struggle with is the authenticity
Mm.
of people in the church. And my mom will always tell me this or say this, and she can tell me where she got it from, or she can tell everybody where she got it from. But in the black church specifically, it's the only place where people of color have had positions of authority or positions of power to run stuff. And so
mm-hmm.
I feel like what we're seeing is that struggle or that identity crisis. They're struggling to, you know, hold on to this title, this position because of things that are going on personally versus who are you authentically? Who
Mm-hmm.
has God called you to be? Because if God has called you to be a minister in another ministry, why are you holding this seat in this other ministry that is going downhill?
Mm.
Release that and go walk in your greatness over where God has called you to be.
Mm.
And so for me, I think I struggle with the authenticity, but I do believe that we do need to be authentically ourselves, because God's gonna do the work. Like that's the thing. As long as we are ourselves authentically, God is going to do the work to get us to. God bless you. He's going to
Thank you.
do the work to allow us to get, or allow the church, big and little c, get to where it's supposed to be. We just have to get out of our own way. Be yourself authentically. Let God do the work and let him get the glory. Because you didn't come up with this. He did.
Exactly.
He did. And truth be told, we are in ministry to serve other people, not ourselves. So you actually are doing a disservice to the people by not walking in your authentic call. And you're doing a disservice to yourself because you're not getting what God has for you. You're delaying your blessing because you are not walking in where God has called you to be. So for me, I'm going to say just be yourself authentically. And I think Angela said it. And how do you say your name? I'm sorry.
It's okay. AnaYelsi.
AnaYelsi, right?
Perfect.
I got it.
Mm-hmm.
Wonderful. We all have said it. We all have said the same thing. Be yourself authentically and boldly. And then God is going to take care of the rest. And I think that's where people miss the mark. They get caught up in the names and the titles and the things, and they forget what the actual goal is or what God's will is. And so I'm just going to say, be yourself authentically and boldly, and let God do the rest.
The Bible says, he that has begun a good work in you will complete it and see it through. Be authentically you and let God do what God do.
Mm.
There you go. There you go.
I like being her mother.
And then even there are two scriptures, that I can use to close this out. By the way, wonderful conversation, ladies. But I think it's important for us to remember, Mama Dent, maybe you can put this verbatim. I'm not good at saying scriptures verbatim, but I can tell you the gist of it.
Google.
Oh my Lord.
The first scripture comes from James, and that is describing what true religion actually is in the eyes of God. And I believe we can take the charge that, especially us women who are the nurturers, who are called to take care of others, who have a special gift for taking care of others, shall I say, a special anointing for that. James tells us that true religion in the eyes of God, it doesn't lie in our titles and how well we speak or anything like that, but it's caring for the poor, the widow, and the orphan. That is true religion. It has nothing to do with how often you go to church on Sundays, or how well you preach, whatever. No, true religion to God is how you care for the widow, the orphan, and the poor. Period. Straight like that. And then to top it off, we're going to go to Matthew 6, one of my favorite scriptures to kind of meditate on in terms of how we are as women with ourselves and how much we worry. Scripture of the day, Matthew 6, verse 34. Therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. Okay? Tomorrow has its own trouble, ladies. We do not have to worry so much. We do not have to hold on to so much, but let's focus on living more for the day and what is right in front of us. I'm learning that in therapy, my daggone self, because I am a worry wart. So anxiety and depression is a thing. But I think if we focus what Jesus is saying in this scripture, don't worry about tomorrow. God cares about the sparrows. He cares about you way more. He clothed the field with flowers. He'll do you way better. Like, he knows what, not to worry so much and hold on to so much. Let that encourage.
Uh-oh.
I'm back. Am I back?
Okay,
I froze.
you
Okay, let that encourage you, my ladies. But we're gonna go ahead and close out for the night. Thank you so much, ladies. It was wonderful. You guys have been great. Thank you so much for everybody who joined us tonight for this conversation. We thank you for listening to us, and I hope you left here tonight understanding a little bit more about communication, how to do it better, how to interpret the language of women. As we end this Women's Month, it has been a tremendous time, and I hope that you have heard the heart of a woman speaking throughout this month. We could not do this ministry without your generosity and your great giving. We pray that you continue to help fund us so we can continue to bring these conversations to you so that we can continue to grow our church and our ministry. There are a number of ways you can give. You can text the number 84321. It's right there on the screen for you. You can also go to our website at www.encounterthewell.org. You can give that way. And anything is fine. We just pray for your generosity and we thank you so much. So as we end this Women's Month, as we close out for the night, you can follow us on all social media handles, everything at Encounter the Well. Thank you, ladies. It's been a pleasure. We love all of you. There's nothing you can do about it. And we will see you guys next time. Bye.
Good night, everyone.
Bye. Cheers, ladies.
Sure.